Niccolò Machiavelli's insights into power, strategy, and leadership remain profoundly relevant in today's complex and dynamic world. His 21 Rules of Power offer timeless guidance on navigating political, social, and organizational challenges with shrewdness and pragmatism. These principles emphasize the importance of adaptability, perception management, calculated risk-taking, and decisive action as essential tools for anyone aspiring to influence or lead effectively. Understanding and applying these rules can empower individuals to outsmart competitors and sustain authority in the face of uncertainty. Machiavelli, in his discourse on power, strongly implies that one must be acutely aware of the hierarchical structures within which one operates. The principle, "Never outshine the master," is rooted in the psychology of authority and dominance. Leaders and superiors, regardless of how secure they appear, often harbor insecurities and vulnerabilities. When a subordinate displays too much brilliance, talent, or initiative, it may be interpreted as a threat rather than an asset. The superior might feel eclipsed or undermined, which can breed resentment and eventually lead to the downfall of the talented individual. In modern organizational and political settings, this principle is crucial. If you are in a subordinate role, your objective should not be to flaunt your abilities in a way that overshadows those in power. Instead, strategically align your accomplishments with the success of your superior. Make them feel that their leadership and vision are the reasons behind your achievements. In doing so, you solidify your position, earn their trust, and protect yourself from unnecessary rivalry. Flattery, when done subtly and genuinely, becomes a tool for survival and advancement. The superior must feel indispensable, even if you are contributing significantly to the progress of the organization or initiative. In public, recognition should be managed carefully. If praise must be given, direct it toward the leader or the team rather than drawing it solely toward yourself. In confidential spaces, your competence may be acknowledged, but in public, the superior must be made to feel like the source of all greatness. History is filled with examples of talented individuals who rose quickly or too brightly, only to be crushed by the very systems they sought to serve. Machiavelli's principle is a cautionary reminder that intelligence must be accompanied by discretion and strategic humility. Machiavelli's view on friendship and enmity is strikingly pragmatic and devoid of romanticism. In his writings, he warns that friends are often unreliable and prone to envy, and may betray us once their interests diverge from ours. He emphasizes that the very nature of friendship, especially when forged in comfort and not necessity, can lead to complacency, exploitation, or betrayal. Friends expect favors and familiarity can breed disrespect, whereas enemies, if wisely managed, can become the most loyal allies because reconciliation often comes with mutual respect and calculated interest. This principle is counterintuitive to conventional moral teachings, but carries substantial political and strategic insight. A former enemy, once turned into an ally, has something to prove. They are more likely to be loyal, driven by a need to establish credibility and commitment. The dramatic shift in loyalty adds weight to their actions. Moreover, they understand your strength and have once challenged it, making them more aware of your boundaries. Such individuals are often more careful and respectful in the alliance. In contemporary scenarios, whether in corporate dynamics, politics, or even academia, this rule has profound implications. People often surround themselves with like-minded peers, assuming safety and loyalty. But alliances based solely on personal comfort may lack professional integrity or shared long-term interests. On the other hand, a rival who respects your abilities and whose goals have converged with yours due to changing circumstances can become a more valuable partner. Managing former adversaries demands skill and foresight, but the potential benefits of such relationships are immense. Trust, according to Machiavelli, should not be granted based on emotional bonds, but assessed through utility, necessity, and proven reliability over time. Loyalty secured through need, and respect often endures longer than that rooted in affection alone. One of the most recurring themes in Machiavellian philosophy is the absolute necessity of secrecy, particularly when it comes to one's ambitions and future strategies. In a world governed by competition, manipulation, and shifting loyalties, openly declaring your intentions is not just unwise, it is often self-destructive. Machiavelli believed that revealing your plans gives your adversaries the power to obstruct, counter, or even exploit them. The essence of power lies in control, and control begins with information. When others do not know what you are truly pursuing, they cannot effectively oppose you or anticipate your next move. In The Prince, Machiavelli consistently underscores the strategic use of deception and the maintenance of a shrewd, ambiguous public persona. By keeping one's real motives hidden, a leader or strategist can navigate volatile environments without exposing weaknesses or being predictable. This is not about dishonesty for own sake, but about recognizing that transparency in politics, warfare, or organizational life often becomes a liability. People are prone to judgment, manipulation, or sabotage when they perceive an individual's true objectives, especially when those objectives threaten their own status or interests. In modern leadership and decision-making contexts, this principle still holds tremendous value. Whether in business negotiations, policy making, or career progression, prematurely sharing your full plans may give competitors an edge. Strategic ambiguity allows room for maneuvering and can protect individuals from unnecessary opposition. Moreover, maintaining mystery creates intrigue and psychological advantage. People tend to respect or fear what they cannot predict. It allows one to manage perceptions and dictate the terms of engagement while others are left guessing. Mastering this rule requires a blend of restraint, psychological insight, and timing. It is not enough to stay silent. One must also skillfully mislead when necessary, offering distractions, false leads, or carefully curated narratives to obscure the real objective. Machiavelli understood that language is one of the most potent tools in the exercise of power, but only when used with precision and restraint. Saying too much, he argued, dilutes the potency of one's words, exposes vulnerabilities, and reveals the speaker's inner thoughts and intentions. When people speak excessively, they tend to reveal more than they intend. allowing others to gain insight into their motives, emotions, and weaknesses. On the contrary, those who speak little often appear wiser, more composed, and more commanding. The less one says, the more weight their words carry, and the more room they have to observe and listen, thereby acquiring valuable information that others unintentionally disclose. This rule is deeply psychological. Silence and brevity create mystery. When someone does not elaborate, people begin to project their own thoughts onto the speaker's words, attributing depth and meaning that may or may not exist. This projection grants the quiet speaker a form of invisible influence. In many cases, authority is not derived from the volume of one's words, but from the impact and deliberation with which they are spoken. Machiavelli would likely argue that those who dominate rooms are not necessarily the loudest, but those whose silence makes others pause and wonder what they are thinking. In leadership, diplomacy, and negotiation, this principle becomes even more significant. Strategic silence can force others to reveal their hands first. By saying less, one avoids commitments, reduces the risk of contradiction, and gains the advantage of flexibility. Moreover, controlling speech cultivates discipline and commands respect. When a leader speaks sparingly, but with certainty and clarity, they project an image of calculated strength and self-assuredness. This can be disarming to opponents and reassuring to allies. Words, when carefully measured, act as sharp instruments that cut through confusion and manipulation, rather than being lost in noise and redundancy. Machiavelli believed that those who aspire to power and wish to retain it must accept the harsh reality of human nature. The world is not governed by fairness, but by cunning, strength, and deception. The phrase, "learn to walk with serpents," encapsulates his warning. To survive and thrive in politics, leadership, or any competitive sphere, one must understand how to navigate alongside those who are manipulative, dangerous, and untrustworthy. Serpents represent individuals or forces that are sly, calculating, and often hidden in their intentions. They do not announce their threats. Instead, they strike when least expected. To walk among them is not to become one, but to learn their movements, anticipate their strikes, and protect oneself without becoming a victim or a fool. This rule echoes Machiavelli's famous idea that a successful leader must know how to be both a fox and a lion. The lion represents strength and dominance, while the fox symbolizes intelligence and subtlety. Walking with serpents requires the mind of a fox. It means mastering the art of reading people, deciphering their motives, detecting their strategies, and identifying potential betrayals before they unfold. In modern contexts, this might refer to surviving corporate politics, navigating bureaucratic systems, or maneuvering through rivalries where appearances mask intentions. Machiavelli did not endorse blind trust. In fact, he viewed it as a liability. Those who assume good intentions from everyone around them are bound to be exploited. Walking with serpents also implies adopting a level of adaptability, knowing when to strike, when to retreat, and when to pretend. It is about understanding the power dynamics in play and never underestimating others' capabilities to deceive. The skilled operator builds alliances without becoming dependent, flatters without being sincere, and plans exits for every engagement. Machiavelli emphasized the critical importance of perception in the exercise of power, asserting that how one is seen by others often matters more than who one truly is. In his view, appearances can be deliberately crafted and manipulated to influence the judgments and decisions of others. This principle reflects a deep understanding of human psychology, recognizing that people rarely see the complex reality behind a person's actions or character. Instead, they respond to surface impressions, symbols, and gestures. Therefore, projecting an image that aligns with the desired perception is essential for gaining respect, trust, and authority. In practical terms, this means managing one's public persona with great care and intention. Leaders must cultivate a presence that inspires confidence, loyalty, and admiration, whether it is through attire, speech, behavior, or the cultivation of certain relationships. Every aspect of one's presentation should reinforce the image they wish to convey. For example, a ruler who appears strong and decisive will discourage challengers, while one who projects fairness and wisdom will attract followers. Machiavelli understood that power often hinges on symbols, ceremonies, and reputations built over time, making perception a vital tool of leadership. This rule also carries the implication that authenticity may sometimes be sacrificed for strategic advantage. Machiavelli was not naive. He recognized that deception and calculated performance are necessary elements of politics. While a leader might not be genuinely benevolent or courageous, it is crucial that others believe they are. The maintenance of such appearances demands vigilance and skill, as any lapse can lead to suspicion or loss of credibility. Additionally, the leader must be flexible enough to adjust their image depending on the audience and situation, as different contexts call for different projections. Ultimately, appearing as one wishes to be perceived is about controlling the narrative of power. It is an exercise in deliberate image management that shapes how people think and behave toward a leader. This focus on perception over reality reflects Machiavelli's pragmatic approach to power, emphasizing results and influence above moral considerations. Machiavelli placed great emphasis on the critical role of timing in the pursuit and maintenance of power. According to him, knowing when to act is just as important as knowing what to do. The ability to seize the right moment, or to delay action until conditions are favorable, can determine the success or failure of any political or strategic move. This insight reveals a deep appreciation of the dynamic and often unpredictable nature of power struggles, where rash decisions can lead to disaster while well-timed actions can yield lasting advantages. Timing requires patience, observation, and a keen sense of the shifting circumstances around one's position. A leader must be constantly aware of the political climate, the moods of allies and adversaries, and the broader social context. This awareness allows the leader to choose the precise moment to make a move, whether to confront opposition, launch a policy, negotiate alliances, or retreat to regroup. Acting too early can expose weaknesses and provoke resistance, while acting too late can mean missed opportunities or the loss of initiative. Machiavelli advised leaders to cultivate a sense of prudence and to avoid impulsiveness. Recognizing that power is often a game of waiting and watching as much as of action. The mastery of timing also involves understanding human nature and the psychological readiness of people. For instance, reforms or changes are more likely to succeed when the public or key stakeholders are receptive and the environment is stable. Conversely, attempting to push through controversial measures during times of unrest or instability is likely to provoke backlash. Therefore, the leader must synchronize actions with favorable public sentiment, economic conditions, or political alliances. This strategic patience can amplify the impact of decisions and strengthen the leader's position. In addition to external timing, Machiavelli emphasized the importance of internal timing. Knowing when to shift strategies or adjust policies as situations evolve. Flexibility in adapting to new realities ensures continued relevance and prevents stagnation. A leader who cannot sense the right moment to change course risks being overtaken by events or losing support. Mastering the art of timing, therefore, is not just about opportunism, but about disciplined judgment and foresight that aligns actions with the rhythms of power and human affairs. Machiavelli believed that a leader's reputation is one of their most valuable assets in the struggle for power, particularly a reputation for strength and unwavering resolve. He understood that perception often shapes reality in politics, meaning that how others view a leader can influence their willingness to support or challenge that leader. A reputation for decisiveness and firmness can deter adversaries from testing limits and encourage allies to rally behind a leader without hesitation. This cultivated image becomes a tool of power itself, sometimes even more effective than actual military or political strength. To build this reputation, a leader must consistently demonstrate the ability to make tough decisions and stand by them. This does not mean recklessness or cruelty for its own sake, but rather a clear display of authority and the capacity to enforce one's will. Hesitation, indecisiveness, or perceived weakness invites challenges, undermines confidence, and emboldens opponents. Machiavelli argued that it is better for a leader to be feared than loved, if they cannot be both, because fear maintains order and respect, while love is fickle and can easily turn to contempt or betrayal. Thus, projecting strength through firm action is a strategic necessity. Moreover, this reputation must be actively maintained and protected. Leaders should not allow minor setbacks or criticism to erode their image of power. Instead, they should control the narrative, manage their public persona, and respond swiftly to any threats to their authority. Symbolic acts, such as enforcing laws strictly or punishing disloyalty, reinforce the perception of a leader who commands respect and should not be underestimated. In Machiavelli's view, reputation is an extension of power. It precedes direct engagement and can shape interactions without the need for physical confrontation. Importantly, cultivating strength also involves psychological warfare. A leader's aura of resolve can intimidate opponents into submission or caution, often preventing conflicts before they arise. This strategic use of reputation helps maintain stability and dominance by setting clear boundaries and expectations. Therefore, The leader's consistent demonstration of strength and resolve is fundamental to consolidating power and ensuring long-term survival in a competitive and often hostile environment. Machiavelli emphasized that mastering the art of timing is crucial for anyone seeking to gain or maintain power. The ability to discern when to act and when to hold back can often determine the success or failure of a leader's decisions and strategies. Timing is not simply about being quick or slow. It is about understanding the precise moment when conditions are ripe for action. When the political or social environment is most favorable, or when opponents are weakest or distracted. A leader who acts too soon may face unnecessary resistance or failure, while one who delays too long risks losing opportunities and appearing indecisive. In his analysis, Machiavelli pointed out that fortune and circumstance play significant roles in political life, but wise leaders can harness these external factors through careful timing. Recognizing trends, shifts in public opinion, changes in alliances, or the weakening of rivals allows a leader to strike effectively. This requires patience, observation, and strategic foresight, qualities that separate the assured leader from the impulsive or reactive one. Machiavelli viewed timing as a form of intelligence. Knowing the right moment to move is as important as the move itself. Moreover, timing intersects closely with prudence. A leader must avoid rushing into decisions driven by emotion or urgency, and instead weigh the risks and benefits in context. This does not mean procrastination, but rather disciplined restraint. For example, launching reforms, initiating conflicts, or making public statements at inappropriate times can alienate supporters or strengthen adversaries. In contrast, well-timed actions can amplify impact, securing alliances, surprising enemies, or rallying followers when their commitment is highest. Machiavelli also recognized that timing is dynamic and situational. What works in one scenario may be disastrous in another. Therefore, continuous assessment of the political landscape is essential. The leader must be adaptable, ready to seize sudden opportunities or retreat when the moment is not right. This flexibility in timing ensures resilience and longevity in power struggles, making timing not just a tactical tool, but a fundamental principle of effective leadership. Machiavelli famously stressed the importance of perception in the pursuit and maintenance of power, asserting that it is often more critical to appear stronger than one truly is. In the realm of politics and leadership, reality can be overshadowed by how others perceive you. A leader who projects strength, confidence, and control, even when facing vulnerabilities or uncertainties, can deter challenges and inspire loyalty among followers. This concept aligns with Machiavelli's understanding that power is not only about actual capacity, but also about the image and reputation cultivated around it. The idea of appearing stronger involves strategic use of symbols, gestures, language, and alliances that convey an aura of invincibility and dominance. Machiavelli understood that human nature often responds more to appearances than to truths. People tend to fear or respect a leader they believe to be powerful, sometimes regardless of the leader's real capabilities. This psychological advantage can prevent opposition from forming or embolden supporters who want to be associated with strength. Moreover, displaying strength can influence negotiations, as opponents might be less willing to challenge someone who seems formidable. Machiavelli's approach also implies a level of controlled deception, where managing impressions becomes a key leadership skill. Leaders must balance honesty with strategic exaggeration and avoid revealing weaknesses that adversaries might exploit. This calculated projection of power can involve public displays, rhetoric, or even symbolic actions that reinforce the leader's dominance. For instance, Machiavelli admired rulers who used pageantry and military parades to intimidate rivals and reassure their own subjects. Furthermore, appearing stronger than one also helps in managing internal dissent and consolidating authority. Followers are more likely to accept decisions and directives from a leader who seems capable and resolute. It also reduces the likelihood of rebellion or betrayal, as potential rivals may hesitate to confront a figure whose strength appears overwhelming. However, this appearance must be maintained consistently, as any exposure of weakness can rapidly erode credibility and invite challenges. Thus, Machiavelli's rule underscores the power of image as an indispensable tool in the art of leadership and survival in competitive environments. Machiavelli emphasized the necessity for a leader to maintain strict control over their emotions, recognizing that emotional restraint is essential for effective governance and the preservation of power. He believed that allowing emotions, such as anger, fear, or excessive compassion to dictate actions could lead to poor decisions, vulnerability, and ultimately, the loss of authority. Leaders who master their emotions project strength and rationality, qualities that inspire confidence in followers and deter adversaries. The control of emotions also enables a leader to respond to challenges and crises with calculated judgment rather than impulsive reactions. Machiavelli argued that political life is fraught with uncertainty and conflict, requiring a steady and composed demeanor to navigate successfully. Emotional outbursts or visible distress can signal weakness and invite exploitation by opponents. A ruler who can mask inner turmoil and present calmness under pressure preserves an image of unwavering authority. Moreover, controlling emotions allows a leader to strategically manipulate situations and people. Machiavelli recognized that human interactions in politics are often driven by perception and persuasion. By maintaining emotional detachment, a leader can assess situations objectively, exploit opportunities, and manipulate rivals or allies without being swayed by personal feelings. This detachment does not imply a lack of empathy, but rather an ability to separate personal sentiment from political necessity. In addition, emotional discipline is crucial for maintaining consistency in decision-making and policy enforcement. A leader who changes positions based on emotional impulses risks alienating supporters and confusing followers, weakening their influence. Consistency rooted in reasoned judgment helps establish credibility and trustworthiness, which are vital for long-term leadership. Machiavelli's emphasis on emotional control also relates to the importance of reputation. A leader perceived as volatile or unpredictable can unsettle both allies and enemies, leading to instability. By contrast, A calm and measured behavior reinforces the image of a capable and commanding ruler who is in full control of both their own actions and the direction of their state. Machiavelli famously asserted that a successful leader must be ready to act with ruthlessness when the situation demands it, understanding that mercy and kindness, while admirable traits, are not always practical in the harsh realities of power. He argued that there are moments in leadership where harsh measures are essential to maintain order, enforce authority, and deter rebellion or betrayal. Ruthlessness, in Machiavelli's view, is not about cruelty for its own sake, but about decisiveness and the willingness to do whatever is necessary to preserve one's position and the stability of the state. This rule is grounded in the belief that political leadership is a battlefield where weaknesses can be exploited and hesitation can lead to downfall. Machiavelli observed that leaders who are overly lenient risk being perceived as weak, encouraging enemies and disloyal subjects to challenge their authority. Conversely, a reputation for firmness and the ability to impose harsh consequences when required can serve as a powerful deterrent. Ruthlessness, therefore, functions as a tool of control, signaling that the leader will not tolerate dissent or disorder. Moreover, Machiavelli suggested that cruelty, when exercised correctly, can be effective. It is swift, targeted, and purposeful. Prolonged or unnecessary cruelty breeds resentment and instability. But calculated ruthlessness that quickly eliminates threats and restores order can stabilize governance and even earn grudging respect. The key lies in balancing severity with pragmatism, employing ruthlessness strategically rather than indiscriminately. Additionally, Machiavelli stressed that a leader should never hesitate to protect their interests and the welfare of the state, even if that means acting against moral or ethical conventions. In his realist perspective, traditional virtues like mercy or honesty can sometimes be liabilities if they undermine the leader's strength or ability to govern. Therefore, ruthlessness is a necessary component of political realism, enabling a leader to navigate complex and often hostile environments effectively. This principle underscores the importance of adaptability and toughness in leadership, where the survival of the ruler and their domain may hinge on the willingness to make difficult and unpopular decisions without hesitation or remorse. Machiavelli understood that perception often matters more than reality in the realm of power and influence. For a leader, controlling the narrative and shaping how they are seen by others can be as critical as actual actions and policies. Public opinion, reputation, and the stories told about a leader's character and decisions form the foundation of their authority and ability to command loyalty or instill fear. Therefore, mastering the art of managing perception is a crucial rule for maintaining and expanding power. In Machiavelli's time, as in today's world, information is a powerful weapon. Leaders who can influence what people believe about them, their intentions, and their accomplishments gain a significant advantage. Even when faced with setbacks or controversies, controlling the narrative allows a leader to frame events in a way that minimizes damage and reinforces their position. This requires not only strategic communication, but also the use of symbols, gestures, and public appearances designed to evoke respect, admiration, or fear. Machiavelli argued that it is often more beneficial for a ruler to appear virtuous, even if they are not, rather than to be genuinely virtuous but appear weak or indecisive. The perception of strength, wisdom, and benevolence builds trust and discourages opposition. A leader's image, therefore, becomes a carefully constructed facade that conceals the complexities and compromises behind political decision-making. This facade must be maintained consistently to prevent doubt or dissent. Moreover, controlling the narrative involves anticipating how others will interpret a leader's actions and taking proactive steps to manage expectations and reactions. Machiavelli recognized that rumors and misinformation could quickly undermine power if left unchecked. Hence, an assured leader must actively engage with the public and other stakeholders, ensuring that their message dominates the discourse. This rule highlights the essential role of communication strategies in leadership. In contemporary settings, where media and social platforms amplify every message, the ability to shape perception is even more vital. Leaders who neglect this aspect risk losing control over their image and, consequently, their power. Machiavelli's insight on self-reliance in matters of power underscores the importance of trusting one's own judgment above all else. In political and strategic realms, placing complete faith in others can lead to vulnerability and eventual downfall. While alliances and partnerships may be necessary, they should never replace a leader's own capacity to make decisions and act decisively. Relying too heavily on others can create dependencies that compromise autonomy and control, thus weakening a leader's position. According to Machiavelli, the unpredictability of human nature and shifting loyalties means that others may act in their own self-interest rather than in alignment with a leader's goals. Even trusted allies can betray, and advisors may offer biased or self-serving counsel. Therefore, a wise leader must cultivate an independent mindset, critically assessing advice, and always being prepared to take action without waiting for external approval or support. Self-reliance fosters resilience, agility, and the ability to respond swiftly to changing circumstances, which are crucial in maintaining power. Furthermore, Machiavelli stresses that a leader's own will and intelligence are the most reliable assets in navigating complex political landscapes. Blind dependence on others undermines the leader's authority and can expose weaknesses that adversaries may exploit. Leaders who trust only themselves demonstrate confidence and command respect, reinforcing their dominance in any power dynamic. This rule also emphasizes the value of developing personal skills, knowledge, and strategic insight. Leaders must continuously refine their understanding of their environment and remain vigilant against complacency. While collaboration is important, Machiavelli's advice encourages leaders to avoid over-reliance on external forces that could compromise their sovereignty. In practical terms, this principle applies to all spheres of leadership, from politics to business. Successful leaders recognize that while teamwork is beneficial, ultimate responsibility rests with them alone. Cultivating self-trust and decisiveness is fundamental to sustaining authority and achieving long-term success. Machiavelli's advice to appear generous while maintaining careful calculation behind the scenes reveals a profound understanding of perception versus reality in the exercise of power. Generosity, when displayed openly, can win the favor of the masses and create an image of benevolence and goodwill. Leaders who are perceived as generous often gain trust and loyalty from their followers, which can be instrumental in stabilizing their authority and securing political support. However, Machiavelli warns that genuine generosity without prudence can be exploited, draining resources and weakening a leader's position. The key to this rule lies in the balance between appearance and intention. A leader should project magnanimity to cultivate goodwill, but ensure that generosity is practiced with clear limits and strategic foresight. This means that acts of giving or kindness must serve a larger purpose, whether to build alliances, improve reputation, or manage public opinion, rather than being purely altruistic. True generosity without calculation can lead to wastefulness, creating vulnerabilities and inviting challenges from rivals who perceive the leader as indulgent or weak. Machiavelli's emphasis on calculated generosity also implies that a leader must be judicious in resource management. Power requires resources, whether financial, military, or political capital, and these must be preserved and deployed with precision. When generosity is wielded as a tool, it can enhance a leader's influence and control without compromising their strength. Conversely, reckless generosity risks alienating supporters who may eventually resent unsustainable largesse or mismanagement. Moreover, this rule reflects the importance of controlling narratives and impressions in leadership. The image of generosity can soften opposition and mitigate dissent, creating a more favorable environment for governance. It allows leaders to present themselves as just and caring, even if their true motives are strategic. Machiavelli's advice suggests that leaders master the art of optics, understanding that what matters in politics is often not just what is done, but how it is perceived. This principle remains highly relevant today, as public figures and leaders must navigate the complexities of image management. Balancing authentic engagement with strategic calculation to maintain their power and influence. Machiavelli's counsel to avoid flattery and to surround oneself with honest advisors highlights the critical importance of truthful counsel in the exercise of effective leadership. Flattery, while often appealing and comfortable to hear, can severely impair a leader's judgment by presenting a distorted view of reality. Leaders who rely on sycophants risk becoming disconnected from the true conditions around them, leading to poor decisions based on misinformation or biased perspectives. The danger of flattery lies in its ability to create an echo chamber where the leader only hears what they want to hear, rather than the objective truth needed for sound governance. Instead, Machiavelli urges leaders to seek advisors who are honest, courageous, and willing to speak candidly, even when their counsel may be unwelcome or challenging. Such advisors provide a valuable service by presenting the leader with unvarnished facts, critical analysis, and alternative viewpoints. This honesty ensures that a leader is better equipped to anticipate risks, understand complex situations, and craft more informed strategies. In this sense, the quality of a leader's advisors directly influences the quality of decisions and, consequently, the stability and success of their rule. Machiavelli also acknowledges the difficulty of this practice, recognizing that honest advisors may be scarce and that leaders might resist hearing uncomfortable truths. It requires strength and wisdom for a leader to welcome dissenting opinions and to distinguish between constructive criticism and mere opposition. Nevertheless, cultivating an environment where truth is valued over flattery is indispensable for long-term governance. It fosters transparency and accountability within the inner circle and mitigates the risk of unexpected failures caused by ignorance or deception. Moreover, avoiding flattery aligns with the broader Machiavellian principle of realism, which stresses a clear-eyed assessment of human nature and political dynamics. By surrounding themselves with honest advisors, leaders gain access to practical, grounded insights that help navigate the complexities of power, alliances, and opposition. This rule reinforces the necessity for leaders to balance interpersonal dynamics with pragmatic governance to maintain authority and effectiveness in a competitive political landscape. Machiavelli's advice to be prepared to act ruthlessly when necessary speaks to the harsh realities of power and governance, where moral idealism often must give way to pragmatic and sometimes severe measures. He argues that leaders cannot afford to be bound by conventional ethics if they wish to maintain authority and achieve their objectives. Ruthlessness, in this context, is not about cruelty for its own sake, but about decisiveness, firmness, and the willingness to take difficult actions to secure stability and control. Machiavelli recognizes that political environments are frequently volatile and unpredictable, requiring leaders to adopt a flexible approach that can include tough decisions to prevent chaos or threats to their position. Being prepared for ruthlessness means that a leader must understand the value of timing and context. It is not about indiscriminate violence or oppression, but about calculated actions designed to neutralize enemies, deter dissent, or enforce order when more lenient strategies fail. This readiness often deters potential challengers by signaling strength and resolve, reducing the likelihood that opposition will arise or escalate. Machiavelli emphasizes that the appearance of cruelty is less damaging than the loss of authority or the descent into disorder, which can be far more destructive for both the leader and the governed. Ruthlessness also encompasses the ability to make sacrifices for the greater good of the state or organization. Leaders may need to prioritize the collective stability over individual interests or reputations, making unpopular decisions that ensure long-term survival. This form of ruthlessness requires a strong will and emotional detachment, qualities that prevent hesitation or weakness at critical moments. Machiavelli's perspective challenges leaders to view power struggles not through a sentimental lens, but as strategic battles where hesitation can lead to defeat. Furthermore, the preparation to act ruthlessly also involves anticipating challenges and maintaining a readiness to respond forcefully. This mental preparedness is a key element of Machiavelli's overall philosophy of realism in leadership, where understanding human nature, including ambition, fear, and betrayal, is essential to managing power effectively in a competitive and often hostile environment. Machiavelli stresses the importance of cultivating a strong reputation as a cornerstone of effective leadership and power. In his view, reputation is a form of intangible capital that can influence the behavior of allies, rivals, and subjects even before direct interaction takes place. A leader's reputation shapes perceptions of their strength, resolve, wisdom, and capability, often determining the course of political or social dynamics without the need for immediate action. This preemptive influence allows a leader to command respect and caution, enabling smoother governance and the ability to deter opposition or rebellion simply through the fear or admiration inspired by their image. Reputation acts as a psychological tool that extends a leader's influence beyond their physical reach. Machiavelli understood that people tend to respond not only to actual power, but also to perceived power. Therefore, a leader must carefully manage their public persona, ensuring it projects confidence, decisiveness, and an unyielding will. This cultivated image must reflect strength and the ability to punish or reward as needed, creating an aura that discourages challenges and encourages loyalty. Machiavelli warns that a damaged or weak reputation invites disrespect and emboldens enemies, undermining authority and opening the door to instability. Moreover, reputation is not simply a matter of personal pride, but a strategic asset that must be actively built and protected. Leaders must be mindful of their actions and decisions, understanding how these will be interpreted and remembered. Consistency between words and deeds, calculated displays of power, and controlled communication all contribute to a reputation that commands influence. Machiavelli also acknowledges that sometimes reputation requires embellishment or the strategic use of fear, where the mere threat of consequences can be as effective as their actual enforcement. The cultivation of reputation is ongoing and dynamic, requiring leaders to adapt to changing circumstances and respond to challenges that might tarnish their image. Machiavelli's insight highlights that reputation can often substitute for actual resources or forces, serving as a powerful deterrent and tool for negotiation in the complex interplay of power. It is a vital element in maintaining authority, shaping alliances, and steering public opinion in favor of the leader's goals. Machiavelli emphasizes the crucial importance of mastering the art of timing as an essential skill for anyone seeking power or influence. Timing, in his analysis, is not simply about acting quickly or slowly, about knowing precisely when to act and when to wait. The right action at the wrong time can lead to failure, while the right action at the right time can secure success and strengthen one's position. Effective leaders must develop a keen sense of situational awareness, understanding the political, social, and psychological climate in which they operate. This awareness allows them to seize opportunities, avoid unnecessary risks, and capitalize on moments of vulnerability or advantage. In the complex world of power dynamics, Machiavelli recognizes that patience and prudence can be as important as boldness and decisiveness. A leader who acts rashly without proper timing risks alienating supporters, provoking unnecessary conflict or exposing weaknesses. Conversely, a leader who hesitates too long may miss critical opportunities or appear indecisive and weak. Therefore, timing involves a delicate balance act, knowing when to advance, when to retreat, when to negotiate, and when to assert dominance. This balance requires both strategic foresight and the flexibility to adapt plans as circumstances evolve. Machiavelli also highlights that external factors, such as public opinion, economic conditions, alliances, and the actions of rivals, play a vital role in determining the ideal moment to act. A leader must continuously monitor these variables and anticipate shifts that could affect their power. Timing is thus closely linked to intelligence gathering and the capacity for rapid decision-making based on accurate information. The ability to read these signals and respond appropriately separates successful leaders from those who falter. In addition, timing is a tool for managing perception. By controlling when and how decisions or actions are revealed, a leader can manipulate the narrative, surprise opponents, and maintain an aura of control. This strategic timing can reinforce the leader's image as someone who is in command, thoughtful, and unassailable. Through skillful timing, power is exercised not only through strength, but through the mastery of circumstance, making timing one of the most sophisticated instruments in Machiavelli's arsenal of power management. Machiavelli's perspective on fear is nuanced and pragmatic, emphasizing that while being loved is ideal, cultivating fear is often a more reliable means of maintaining power. He argues that fear, when managed carefully, can serve as a strong motivator to ensure obedience, discipline, and loyalty among subjects or followers. Unlike love, which is fickle and can wane with changing emotions or circumstances, fear is more constant and less dependent on individual affections. Therefore, a leader who understands how to wield fear strategically can maintain order and deter potential challengers or dissenters more effectively. However, Machiavelli cautions against provoking hatred, which he views as dangerous and destabilizing. Fear should be maintained through respect for authority, justice, and the enforcement of laws rather than cruelty or arbitrary violence. The aim is to create a sense of respect that compels obedience without crossing the line into resentment or hatred, which could provoke rebellion. This balance requires a leader to demonstrate strength and decisiveness in enforcing rules and punishing transgressions, while also ensuring that such measures are perceived as fair and justified. In practical terms, cultivating fear means establishing a reputation for firmness and resolve. When subjects or rivals believe that a leader will act decisively against threats or disobedience, they are less likely to challenge that leader's authority. Fear works as a preventive mechanism, and discouraging both internal subversion and external aggression. This psychological leverage is essential in maintaining control, especially in politically unstable or competitive environments where power is constantly contested. Machiavelli also highlights that fear must be underpinned by a leader's ability to inspire awe and project strength. A leader who appears weak or indecisive invites contempt and rebellion, whereas one who inspires a controlled fear can command respect and maintain stability. Thus, Fear is not about cruelty for own sake, but about calculated power projection designed to safeguard leadership and preserve order in the realm. Machiavelli understood that the ability to adapt to changing circumstances is essential for any leader or individual seeking to maintain power and influence over time. In a world defined by uncertainty, shifting alliances, and evolving challenges, rigidity is a liability that can quickly lead to downfall. The principle of adaptability underscores the importance of flexibility in strategy, tactics, and decision-making processes to respond effectively to new situations and threats. Machiavelli advocated for a pragmatic approach that prioritizes results over ideology, encouraging leaders to assess their environment continuously and alter their methods accordingly. Adaptability requires keen observation and a deep understanding of both the internal dynamics of one's domain and the external forces that shape the political or social landscape. A leader must be attuned to shifts in public opinion, economic conditions, military capabilities, and the actions of rivals. This vigilance enables timely adjustments that can turn potential crises into opportunities for consolidation of power. The failure to recognize changing realities or to cling stubbornly to outdated policies often results in missed opportunities or catastrophic mistakes. Machiavelli praised leaders who demonstrated the ability to shift politically, changing alliances, adopting new tactics, and reinventing themselves as needed to survive and thrive. Moreover, adaptability includes the capacity to learn from experience and past failures. Machiavelli advised that wise leaders do not repeat errors, but modify their approach based on outcomes. This iterative process of learning and evolving is crucial in navigating the complexities of leadership, where no fixed formula guarantees success. Being adaptable also entails managing perceptions, projecting confidence and control even while shifting strategies behind the scenes to maintain advantage. The leader's persona itself may need to evolve to suit new context, balancing pragmatism with charisma and strength. Ultimately, mastering adaptability is not simply about reactive change, but proactive transformation. It involves anticipating trends and positioning oneself to benefit from them, turning uncertainty into a competitive edge that outsmarts adversaries who remain rigid or complacent. These 21 rules provide a comprehensive framework for mastering power in contemporary contexts. By embracing realism over idealism, prioritizing flexibility, and cultivating a strategic mindset, individuals can anticipate change and respond decisively. Machiavelli's teachings underscore that power is not merely about dominance, but also about perception, timing, and prudent judgment. Applying these principles responsibly enables leaders to maintain influence, navigate complexities, and achieve enduring success in an ever-evolving environment.